Did Germany ban men of conscription age from leaving the country, or not? In Germany from now on, all men aged 17 to 45 are required to obtain special permission from the Bundeswehr to travel abroad for more than 3 months. This is already being connected to the country's preparations for a major war with Russia. At the same time, Finland is also preparing to counter Russian aggression, both in the form of hybrid attacks and a full-scale invasion. For example, conscripts are being trained as highly skilled snipers, ready for any scenario along the 1,350-kilometer border with Russia. But is there any reason to panic, or is this just a phased preparation that was known about earlier, and therefore there is no urgency in this? And most importantly, is anyone actually forbidding men in Germany from traveling abroad? Let's figure this all out now, because I see a lot of questions and misinformation on this topic. My name is Alexei Pecci. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and write any comment you want. And friends, if you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so financially with any donation or paid channel membership using the links and details in the description of this video. Or scan the QR code on your screens. I will be grateful for any support you can give. So, German media are reporting, and Ukrainian and other outlets are immediately picking up the information that from now on, in Germany, absolutely everyone, men of conscription age from 17 to 45 must obtain permission from the Bundeswehr Career Center if they intend to leave Germany for more than 3 months, regardless of whether they are going abroad for a semester, for work, or for a long trip. In fact, the German Ministry of Defense now must issue a permit to leave the country. This requirement is now permanent and is no longer limited to situations of tension or defense, that is, a specific military threat. Was this a surprise? Not really. The fact is that this regulation has been in effect since January 1, 2026, and previously it was also relevant in case Germany was under threat. Nevertheless, the change came into effect almost unnoticed. As the law on the modernization of military service, in particular, Article 2 of the Law on Compulsory Military Service in Germany was revised. Previously, the provision of Article 3, which regulates the requirements for obtaining permission for long-term stays abroad, was applied exclusively in 2 extreme situations. In a state of tension, that is, when there is an increased external threat determined by the Bundestag or NATO, and in a state of defense, when the federal territory is actually under attack by armed forces. However, since the beginning of this year, this provision has been applied even outside of these exceptional situations, that is, under normal circumstances, that is, always. A representative of the German Federal Ministry of Defense confirmed the new requirement to obtain permission, and here is his quote. The main goal and guiding principle of this provision is to create a reliable and informative military registry in case of necessity. It is necessary to know, in case of an emergency, who may be abroad for an extended period. Let me explain. The point is that this is not a ban on leaving the country, but rather the formation of up-to-date lists of men of conscription age. Since the borders are open in the European Union, it is very difficult to actually know how many men are inside the country and how many have left. Once again, there is no ban on leaving. The fact is that paragraph 3 of the German law on military service stipulates that permits must generally be issued. Refusal is not provided for by law. Nevertheless, submitting applications remains mandatory. Once again, by law, a man in Germany cannot be prohibited from leaving the country. In this way, the Bundeswehr updates the actual number of men inside the country. The fact is that the German government intends to increase the size of Germany's armed forces from the current approximately 184,000 to 270,000 service members by 2035. For this purpose, all young people born in 2008 and later receive a questionnaire which, among other things, asks them about their willingness to serve in the military. Filling out the questionnaire is mandatory for men and voluntary for women, since the basic law, that is the Constitution, provides for conscription of men only. But joining the army remains voluntary. As stated in the law, the conscription process will be introduced gradually. In 2026, those who indicated their willingness to serve in the questionnaire will be the first to undergo a medical examination. Later, a comprehensive conscription process will follow for all young people. The principle of voluntary service remains unchanged. That means no one will be forced to serve. But still, it's important to understand that the army is being modernized. But once again, let's make it clear, there is no travel ban. By law, the Bundeswehr does not have the right to prohibit a man from leaving the country. They can only record that a certain man has actually left the country. And at this moment, well, if suddenly, God forbid, a war starts, he is not in Germany. Accordingly, he shouldn't be counted on in the first place. And you should count on those who stayed inside the country. Meanwhile, Finland is getting ready to counter Russian aggression. Conscripts are being trained as top-class snipers who are ready for any scenario on the 1,350-kilometer border with Russia. And as Euronews reports, at the well-fortified Finnish border with Russia, border guards say they are ready for all scenarios, starting from hybrid threats such as GPS jamming, drone flights, or, by the way, using migration as a tool of pressure. Finland's deterrence system is increasingly being seen as an example for all of Europe. In Finland, let me remind you, Murmansk is not that far away, and that's where the Russian nuclear fleet is based. By the way, it's located there about 150 kilometers give or take from Finland. Moreover, in 2023, Russia sent civilian migrants across the Finnish border as part of a hybrid war against Ukraine's allies, trying to sow discord and chaos. And so, using civilians as a tool of pressure on NATO and EU borders became a common tactic of the Kremlin at that time. And besides, Finland, Poland, Latvia, and Lithuania also faced similar situations. As a result, in November 2023, Finland decided to completely close itself off, its border with Russia, after Moscow tried to send migrants into its territory. Moreover, at that time, Helsinki also suspended the processing of asylum applications. But what's even more interesting in this story is what the Finnish conscript says, and here I'll quote. The publication Euronews quotes 19-year-old conscript Laura Stenbacka, and here is his statement. For example, we are preparing for reconnaissance. If a war starts, we will move to the border behind enemy lines to gather information and try to find important targets. That is, the Finns, as they say, are not just going through basic military training, but are actually practicing scenarios of war with the Russians. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments under this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. And be sure to subscribe to my Telegram channel, Peachy News. The link is in the description of this video. In the description, you'll also find all the ways you can support the work of this YouTube channel. I would really appreciate it. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Bye everyone. Bye.